probabilities. Let's say I'm rolling this crit rate circlet with one good substat, crit damage. It started with 3 substats and is currently at +4, so it has 4 more substats to gain. This makes the success probability 25%, which is repeated over 4 trials, and we want 4 successes. Plugging this data into the binomial distribution formula gives this probability. The odds that all 4 rolls are crit damage are just 0.39%, or 1 in 256. 3 out of 4 rolls into crit damage is about a 1 in 21 chance, and so on. We can do the same thing for artifacts with a greater starting number of valuable substats, which increases the probability of success, as well as artifacts that begin with 4 subset lines, which just increases the number of trials from 4 to 5. Another way of looking at these artifacts is in terms of average valuable rolls. A shorthand way of predicting how many valuable rolls an artifact will have is maximum possible substats times the number of good baseline substats divided by 4. For example, a 4th starting line artifact with 2 good substats is expected to have 4.5 good substats at +20, an equal chance of having between 4 and 5. Of course, not every artifact starting with 2 good subsets is going to have 4 or 5 valuable rolls at +20. So here is a more significant chart for expected valuable substat yield depending on how many valuable substats the artifact starts with. The text highlighted in white represents the endpoint for favored probabilities for each artifact type. Anything past the white text at the right means the artifact is not favored to gain that substat. As an example, an artifact with 3 good substats, started with 3 subset lines, is most likely to have at least 6 valuable substats. Anything beyond that is unlikely. We can also determine the realistic ranges for each artifact using this chart, which I will define by where the percentages are between 10 and 90%. Overall, these two lists are more important to memorize when forming artifacts, as they more accurately represent upgrade potential. Artifacts won't be worth rolling if their potential on a specific character does not match or exceed the current number of valuable substats they have. What I've been describing is ways to form artifacts that conserve more and resources. If you have the spare resources, then you can just afford to roll an artifact based on its maximum potential, not just the most likely probability. Once the artifact loses its potential to be an upgrade, then you can stop rolling it and feed it into a different piece. The more damage a character contributes to the team, the more their artifact quality matters. You want to prioritize the character dealing the most raw damage, then at some point switch to the second most, and so on. However, at what point is it worthwhile to switch characters? Let's find out. With the numbers in hand for obtaining artifacts, we can sort them into a list going from easiest to obtain to most difficult, to figure out the notable breakpoints for artifact forming. Breakpoints will differ from character to character depending on the number of valuable substats and which main stats are preferred. I've consolidated the data into comprehensible tables for each level of investment. Feel free to pause the video to see more specific purposes for each of these levels. To summarize the results, here are the general guidelines to artifact farming. 1. Get correct main stats for damage dealers. 2. Get correct main stats and important 4-piece sets, such as the Viridescent and Deepwood sets, for characters with lower damage contribution and meet their ER requirements. 3. Reach baseline subset investment for all damage dealers, going in order of damage contribution. 4. Invest more into damage dealers and switch characters when a good investment level is reached. Artifact Strongbox value. The Strongbox gives slightly better odds at obtaining an artifact with 4 subsets to start. How much of an impact does this really have? As it turns out, not a super significant one. For getting artifacts with at least 5 valuable subsets for any variant, Strongbox increases the rate by less than 10%. Where it becomes more significant is for artifacts with at least 7 or more valuable substats, eventually maxing out at a 70% better rate for artifacts with the maximum amount of valuable substats, either 8 or 9. But a 70% rate increase on a really tiny chance is still a really tiny chance. With this knowledge, the Artifact Strongbox has 2 primary roles. First, to avoid farming artifact domains with only a single desired artifact set. This is mainly useful for getting baseline stats with correct main stats, rather than for getting substat upgrades, since obtaining artifacts from the Strongbox is slower than farming in domains, even if only one set in the domain is useful. Second, to min-max characters whose stats have already been farmed for. I would recommend switching from domains to the Strongbox once the artifact set is somewhere between high investment and ceiling tier investment. Perfecting artifacts. An artifact's quality can sometimes play into what the next upgrade objective is. An artifact with 6 valuable substats, but perhaps only with 1 line of crit, may warrant aiming for another artifact with 6 valuable substats, but with more crit rolls instead.